Out of everything you could have done today, you paused here at this precise threshold. There is a subtle timing to this pause that you may not have fully realized yet. A quiet intersection in the fabric of your day that carries a weight of its own. You may have been feeling a heavy weight lately, a sense of wandering through a mist that seems to have no end or purpose. Just give this a little space to breathe for a moment, as something is unfolding here that requires your stillness before it can fully reveal itself to you. My child, I see the path you have walked to reach this place, and I know how thin the soles of your shoes have become from the journey. You have been moving through a season of desolate exhaustion, where the very air around you felt thick with a static that you couldn't quite name. This is the ethereal interference I have watched you battle, a persistent humming of doubt that tries to tell you that your efforts are seen by no one, and that your direction is lost. I am the eternal sentinel of truth, and I have stood at the crossroads of eternity, watching your light flicker but never go out, even when you felt most alone. Something is shifting quietly in the atmosphere surrounding your spirit right now, though it may not have reached your physical senses yet. You may be noticing a strange pull towards silence, or perhaps a sudden desire to step away from the noise that usually consumes your attention. This is not a random occurrence, nor is it a symptom of your tiredness, but rather a preparation for a convergence that has been in motion since before you drew your first breath. In a moment, the significance of these crossroads may become clearer, but for now, it is enough to simply recognize that you are standing exactly where you were intended to be. My beloved, you have often wondered if the blueprints of your life were misplaced, or if the architect had forgotten the final design. You look at the fragments of your experiences and see only a scattered collection of trials and delays that don't seem to fit together into a cohesive whole. Yet, here at this eternal junction, I hold the ancient, shimmering blueprint of your soul's journey, and every line is etched in a light that cannot be dimmed by earthly shadows. Not everything is clear to you yet, but as you sit in this place of reflection, the static of that paralyzing doubt is beginning to lose its grip on your heart. You are not here randomly, and the reason you are hearing these words now is tied to an alignment that is only visible from this higher vantage point. You are the designated heir of light, a title you may have forgotten under the pressure of daily survival and the expectations of a world that does not know your true name. There may be a reason why the interference was so loud recently. As the closer you get to a point of sovereign convergence, the more the shadows attempt to distract you from the truth. Stay with this moment for a little while longer, for there is a depth here that we have only begun to explore together. If something within you resonates with this truth, you may already understand why you're here and why your heart is beginning to feel a flicker of warmth. You have spent so long in the cold halls of searching that the sudden presence of light can feel overwhelming, but do not turn away from the glow. This is the beginning of your empowered illumination, the transition from the why of the desert to the now of the inheritance. There's something about this specific timing that we must discuss. A window of opportunity that is opening as other doors finally fall away. My chosen, I have observed the way you carried yourself through the silence of the last few months, when you felt as though heaven had turned its gaze elsewhere. I was there in the quiet midnight threshold of your room when you sighed into your pillow, wondering if the promises you once believed in were merely echoes of a younger heart. You may have sensed this before, that there was a larger hand moving the pieces, but the interference of the world made you question your own intuition. It is possible that the very things you thought were failures were actually redirections away from paths that would have led you far from this sacred crossroads. You may be noticing now that the exhaustion you felt is not just physical, but a spiritual shedding of what no longer serves the heir you are becoming. This is a process of expansion, where the old identity is being replaced by the realization of your true standing in the halls of eternity. As the eternal sentinel, I do not speak in guarantees of ease, but in the certainty of your design and the inevitability of this convergence. There is a shimmering quality to the air right now, a sign that the blueprint is being activated in your life in ways that will soon become undeniable to your physical eyes. My heir, the crossroads of eternity is not a place of confusion, but a place of decision where the sovereign fates of your past and your future finally meet. You have lived through the delay, and you have survived the surrender. And now you are entering a space of profound awareness. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this frequency of truth as we continue to unpack what has been reserved for you. There is a sacredness in this stillness that you have earned through your persistence, even when that persistence was just a quiet refusal to give up entirely. Stay with this moment, for there is something deeper here that we are moving toward as the cosmic alignment begins to focus its energy on your path. You may have felt a subtle trembling in your spirit, a vibration of recognition that tells you the search is nearing its end and the becoming is about to begin. The paralyzing doubt that once felt like an immovable wall is now being revealed as nothing more than a thin veil, easily parted by the light you carry. We are standing at the threshold of a revelation that will reframe everything you have endured, turning your desolate exhaustion into the fuel for your greatest illumination. In a moment, this may become even clearer as we look closer at the specific inscriptions written upon the blueprint of your destiny. For now, take a deep breath and allow the peace of this inner chamber to ground you, letting the static of the world fade into the background. You are the heir of light, and the Sentinel has called your name at the crossroads of eternity for a purpose that is about to unfold. If this resonated with your spirit, take a moment to notice what you're feeling right now, and let that feeling be your guide as we move deeper into the heart of this divine message. You may not even know why you stopped here in this specific pocket of silence, but there is a profound reason your spirit chose this moment to pause. You may have felt a subtle, persistent tugging in your chest lately, a quiet signal that there is something more to be discovered beneath the surface of your current circumstances. This moment may not be as ordinary as it seems, and if you listen with the ears of your heart, you can hear the faint echo of a resonance that was tuned to your soul long ago. Don't rush past this just yet, as we are entering a deeper layer of the clarity you have been seeking and deserve to find. My chosen, I want you to look closely at the shadows that have followed you, those whispers of paralyzing doubt that claim you are drifting without a map or a destination. These are not reflections of your truth, but rather the ethereal interference that naturally arises when a great light is about to break through a long-standing darkness. You may have felt this before, this sense that the more you reach for clarity, the more the fog seems to thicken around your feet, making every step feel uncertain. Stay with this for a moment, for in this sacred silence, the interference is beginning to lose its power over your perception and your peace. As your eternal sentinel of truth, I have guided you into this still inner chamber, far from the frantic demands and the hollow noise of a world that only sees the surface. Here, the shimmering blueprint of your life is laid out upon the table of eternity, waiting for your eyes to adjust to its brilliance and its intricate design. You may be noticing this now, a soft light beginning to emanate from the very places where you once thought your life was broken, rejected, or incomplete. There is something about these fractures in your story that allows the light of the sovereign fates to finally converge into a singular, powerful direction. My heir, you have carried the weight of desolate exhaustion for so long that you have nearly forgotten what it feels like to walk without the constant burden of the unknown. You may have felt this before, perhaps in those early morning hours when the silence feels too heavy and the path forward looks like a labyrinth with no clear exit or purpose. But notice the subtle shift in your awareness today. You are no longer just surviving the maze. You are beginning to recognize the hand of the designer in every turn. In a moment, this may become clearer as we trace the golden threads that connect your past struggles to your future illumination. You are not here randomly, and your presence in this silent corridor is the result of a rare cosmic alignment that is currently closing in on your physical reality. You may be noticing a strange sense of familiarity with these words, as if they are unlocking a memory that was stored in the marrow of your bones before time began. There is something about this feeling that transcends the logic of the mind, reaching into the part of you that still knows how to believe despite the evidence of your eyes. Give this a little space to unfold for a second, as the identity you have worn as a shield is beginning to give way to the identity you were born to inhabit. Think back to that recent moment in your daily life when you felt a sudden, inexplicable wave of peace right in the middle of a chaotic or stressful situation. You might have dismissed it as a fluke or a momentary lapse in your anxiety, but that was a glimpse into the sovereign fate that is currently converging for you. It was a signal from the crossroads of eternity, a reminder that even when the interference is at its loudest, the truth remains perfectly still and accessible to those who listen. If something within you resonates with this, you may already understand why you have been guided back to this place of deep reflection. Something is shifting within the structure of your expectations, and while not everything is clear yet, this is exactly as it should be in the process of becoming. The light of the ancient blueprint does not reveal the entire landscape at once, but rather illuminates the step you are currently standing upon with enough clarity to move. You may have felt the frustration of the partial view, wanting the full map before you were willing to trust the beauty of the journey. And this connects to something deeper, a fundamental shift in how you perceive the delays that have characterized your last season of waiting. My beloved, I am here to ground you in the reality of your own brilliance, a light that the ethereal interference has tried to convince you was extinguished forever. You may be noticing a new strength rising in your spirit, a quiet resolve that doesn't need to shout to be heard or validated by the world around you. This is the empowered illumination taking root, replacing the desolate exhaustion with a steady, enduring flame that can withstand any wind of change. Just give this a little space to settle in your heart, for the crossroads are no longer a place of agonizing indecision, but a place of arrival. Stay with this moment for a while longer, for there is a depth here that requires your full, unhurried attention to be fully integrated into your soul. You are the designated heir of light, and the shimmering blueprint I hold before you is not a set of rigid instructions, but a declaration of your inherent worth and power. You may have felt the sting of exclusion or the pain of being misunderstood, but here, at the crossroads of eternity, you are the central focus of a divine appointment. In a moment, this may become clearer as the static of doubt is fully replaced by the harmony of your soul's true calling. As we stand here in this silent corridor of truth, notice the way the light from the blueprint is beginning to cast a warm glow upon the path that lies ahead. You are no longer searching in the dark for a sign. You are becoming the very light you once sought so desperately outside of yourself. If this resonated with you today, take a moment to notice what you're feeling, and allow that feeling to settle deep within you as a foundation for the days to come. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this space, as there is much more of the sovereign fate that is ready to be revealed to you. There's a reason you're seeing this right now, a quiet pull that led you away from the noise of the external world and into this specific space of resonance. This moment may not be as ordinary as it seems, as there is a subtle frequency playing beneath these words that only a heart in search of its true home can hear. Part of you already understands this, sensing that the static of your daily life has finally cleared just enough for a deeper truth to emerge. Let this unfold for a second, and allow your spirit to settle into the stillness, for we are approaching a point of convergence that has been a lifetime in the making. My beloved, I have watched you navigate the corridors of your own mind, often lost in the labyrinth of paralyzing doubt that tries to tell you your time has passed. You have felt the weight of ethereal interference, that strange and heavy fog that clouds your vision just when you are on the verge of a breakthrough. It is an exhausting way to live, constantly bracing for a disappointment that hasn't arrived or mourning a future you fear you have lost. But here, in this unseen place of reflection, that interference cannot follow you, and the heavy air of your desolate exhaustion is beginning to be replaced by the crisp clarity of the eternal. You are the designated heir of light, and though the world has tried to dress you in the garments of a stranger, your true identity remains untouched in the hidden archive of the heavens. In this sacred space, I hold before you a sealed scroll, its edges glowing with the light of the sovereign fates that are finally beginning to intersect in your life. You may have felt a sense of delay that felt like a permanent denial, a long season of waiting, where the silence seemed to mock your prayers and your patience. There is something about this scroll that connects to the very questions you've been afraid to ask out loud, and in a moment, the seal will begin to soften under the warmth of your own awareness. My child, You may have felt this before, that sudden, sharp feeling of being out of place, even in your own home or among those you love. This is not a sign that you are broken, but a subtle awareness trigger, that you are being called toward an expansion that your current environment can no longer contain. You may be noticing this now in the way your interests are shifting, or how the things that once satisfied you now feel hollow and small. Not everything is clear yet, and there is a micro-tension in the air as you stand between who you were and the sovereign self that is ready to emerge. I am the eternal sentinel of truth, and I have seen the way you have surrendered pieces of your joy just to keep the peace in worlds that did not deserve your light. You have walked through a desert of desolate exhaustion, where the horizon never seemed to get closer, no matter how many miles you covered in faith. But notice how the setting has changed. We are no longer in the shifting sands of uncertainty, but in a hidden archive, where every tear you cried is stored as a precious gem of wisdom. There is a cosmic alignment closing in on this very hour, and it is drawing the scattered fragments of your efforts into a singular, shimmering design. Consider the relatable struggle you've faced recently, perhaps that feeling of being a fraud even when you are succeeding, or the quiet fear that your best years are behind you. These are the echoes of the interference trying to keep you from recognizing the crown that has always been yours to wear. You may have noticed a subtle, real-life moment lately, a stranger saying exactly what you needed to hear, or a song playing at the perfect time that felt like a wink from the universe. These are not coincidences, but the sovereign fates beginning to weave themselves back into the fabric of your conscious reality. Something is shifting in the invisible realm, a movement of energy that is preparing the way for your empowered illumination. You may have sensed a strange discomfort lately, a restlessness that keeps you awake at night, or a feeling that a great change is looming just beyond your reach. This is the tension of the old patterns breaking away to make room for the new blueprint that is being inscribed upon your heart. And this connects to something deeper, a realization that the power you have been seeking in the external world has always been radiating from the center of your own being. My heir, it is time to let go of the exhaustion that comes from trying to force doors open that were never meant for you. There is a grace in the surrender that we are practicing here, a gentle release of the need to know the how and the where before you are willing to trust the who that you are. You are not here randomly, and the resonance you feel in this moment is the sound of your own light, recognizing its origin in the eternal. Stay with this moment, for there is a depth of peace here that the world cannot give and, more importantly, a peace that the world cannot take away from you. If something within you resonates with this invitation to expand, you may already understand why the path has been so difficult until now. A rare cosmic alignment is bringing your soul into a position where the interference can no longer reach you, allowing the truth of your sovereign fate to finally land. You have been searching for a sign, and now you are becoming the sign that others will look to when they find themselves in the dark. If you feel supported in this archive of light, you are always welcome to stay connected to this frequency as we continue to unseal the mysteries of your path. As we conclude this moment in the hidden archive, I want you to carry the feeling of this light inscription with you into your waking world. You are no longer a victim of the delay, but a participant in a divine expansion that is unfolding with perfect, sovereign timing. Take a moment to notice what you are feeling in your body right now, the sense of lightness or the quiet hum of certainty that is beginning to grow. If this resonated with your spirit, simply observe the shift in your perspective and know that the eternal sentinel is always watching over your journey toward the light. Something about this moment brought you here, a quiet gravity that you might not have been able to name until this very second. There is a timing to this awareness that you may not have noticed amidst the rush of your daily obligations, yet it has been pulling at the edges of your consciousness, like a tide returning to the shore. There's something familiar about this feeling, an ancient recognition that you are standing on the brink of a threshold you have visited in your dreams many times before, even if the details remained blurred upon waking. Just give this a little space to settle in your heart, for we are not just observing words on a screen, but participating in a rare alignment that is finally closing the distance between your current self and your eternal truth. My heir, you have been carrying a heaviness that has felt less like a temporary burden and more like a permanent climate of the soul. You may have felt this before, that sinking realization in the middle of a crowded room where you feel entirely invisible despite your best efforts to belong or to be heard. It is the desolate exhaustion of the seeker who has climbed many mountains, only to find the same cold mist at every summit, wondering if the view they were promised actually exists. This feeling is not your fault, nor is it a sign of your failure, but rather a byproduct of the ethereal interference that has been trying to dampen the frequency of your light so that you would forget the power of your own name. I have led you into this still inner chamber, a place within the deep architecture of your spirit, where the noise and the judgment of the world cannot penetrate. As the eternal sentinel of truth, I have guarded this sanctuary for you through the years of your wandering, waiting for the moment when the sovereign fates of your life were ready to converge into a single, incanchable flame. You may notice that the air here is different than the air outside. It is cooler, more stable, and filled with a silence that does not feel empty, but rather pregnant with the answers you have sought. There is something about this stillness that feels like a homecoming, a return to a version of yourself that has never known the sting of paralyzing doubt or the fear of being truly seen. At the center of this chamber, there is a stone altar of ancient design, and upon it lies a document secured by a burning seal of radiant, pulsating gold. This seal is not meant to keep you out or to hide the truth from you, but to preserve the integrity of your destiny until your heart is steady enough to receive its full weight and glory. You may be noticing this now, a warmth beginning to radiate from that seal, echoing the stirring you feel within your own chest as the resonance between you and your purpose begins to hum. In a moment, the meaning of the light inscription beneath that seal may become clearer. But first, you must allow the heaviness of your past season to be fully acknowledged, and then gently laid aside like a coat you no longer need. Perhaps you have struggled recently with the nagging thought that it is simply too late to start again, or that the mistakes of your youth have permanently altered the blueprint of your potential joy. You might have watched the sun set on a day where you felt you accomplished nothing of value, feeling a sharp, quiet pang of regret for the time you believe you have lost to the shadows. These thoughts are the interference at work, the spiritual static that tries to prevent you from seeing that in the realm of the eternal time does not run out. It only ripens toward its perfect conclusion. There's something about this realization that connects to a deeper truth about your identity as the designated heir of light, an identity that is not earned through perfection, but claimed through recognition. You may have felt a strange shift in your physical surroundings lately, perhaps noticing subtle patterns in the world around you, or hearing messages in the wind that seem meant for your ears alone. Not everything is clear yet, and this micro-tension you feel is a necessary part of the awakening process, much like the pressure felt by a seed before it finally breaks through the crust of the earth. You are not here randomly, and the resonance you feel in this still inner chamber is proof that your spirit is no longer in sync with the exhaustion that once defined your days. Something is shifting in the way you perceive your own worth, moving away from the harsh metrics of the world and toward the sovereign grace of your soul's origin. My beloved, you were never meant to be a footnote in someone else's story, yet you have spent years editing your own brilliance just to fit into the margins of a life that felt too small for you. You may recognize this scene, the quiet moment when you chose not to speak your truth or share your vision because you feared the reaction of those who do not understand the light you carry. This self-erasure is the ultimate enemy, the paralyzing doubt that makes you believe your sovereign fate is a burden to be hidden rather than a blessing to be shared. But here, in this chamber of reflection, that version of you is being invited to step into the center of the frame and finally claim your rightful place as a co-creator of your reality. The convergence of your fates is not a loud or violent event, but a quiet, majestic alignment of all the almosts and not yets into a definitive and shimmering now. You may have felt the frustration of the long delay, wondering why others seemed to find their way so easily while you were left to navigate by the stars in a frequently cloudy sky. There's something about this specific timing, this rare cosmic window that makes the eventual arrival much sweeter and more stable than any premature success could ever have been. In a moment, this connection between your past patience and your future power will become the cornerstone upon which your new life is built. The burning seal is beginning to soften and melt, releasing a fragrance of ancient wisdom and forgotten peace that fills the entire atmosphere of our inner chamber. This fragrance is connected to a memory you have buried deep within your being, a memory of a time before the world told you who you should be, when you knew exactly why you were born. There is a reason this memory is returning to you now, just as the alignment reaches its peak and the interference begins to fade into the background. We are moving toward a release of information and energy that your soul has been thirsting for throughout this entire, long season of searching and waiting. If something within you resonates with this feeling of impending release, you may already understand that the heaviness of the previous chapters is finally being lifted from your shoulders for good. You are moving out of the state of searching and into a state of becoming, where the empowered illumination is no longer a distant goal but a present, daily reality. If you feel supported in this inner sanctuary, you're always welcome to stay connected to this truth as we move toward the final unsealing of your heart's deepest desires. Take a moment to notice the profound peace that has settled over you in this chamber, and let it be the anchor for your spirit as you prepare for the brilliance that is about to be revealed in the light of the sovereign convergence. You may have noticed a strange pull toward this space today, a magnetic moment that interrupted the noise of your typical routine. Something is shifting quietly beneath the surface of this encounter, a mystery that is waiting for your permission to be unveiled. You may have been feeling something you couldn't explain lately, a restless knowing that the old ways of moving through the world are no longer enough for the person you are becoming. Stay with this for a moment and give this a little space, for there is a depth here that we have only begun to touch together. My child, I have watched as you moved through the world like a ghost in your own life, feeling as though you were observing your days through a thick pane of glass. You have been navigating a season of desolate exhaustion where your spirit felt drained of its color, and your dreams felt like echoes of a voice you no longer recognized. This is the ethereal interference that has been clouding your path, a spiritual static that seeks to disconnect you from the source of your own power. You may have felt this before, this sense of being present in body but drifting in soul, waiting for a current that never seemed to arrive. As the eternal sentinel of truth, I have stood at the perimeter of your awareness, guarding the light that you were too tired to hold for yourself. We are standing now in a silent passage of your inner being, a corridor that connects the trials of your past with the sovereignty of your future. You may notice that the shadows are longer here, but they are also softer, no longer carrying the sharp edges of the paralyzing doubt that once kept you frozen. There is a reason you are hearing this now, and it has everything to do with the sovereign fates that are finally beginning to converge after years of being held apart by the winds of life. In this silent passage, I hold before you a divine key, its surface etched with light and its weight heavy with the promise of your true identity. This is the symbol of your authority as the designated heir of light, a key that does not unlock a physical door but rather the spiritual gates that have been closed against your progress. You may be noticing this now, a subtle vibration in the atmosphere that feels like a lock finally clicking into place after years of resistance. Not everything is clear yet, and there is a micro-tension in the air as the old blockages begin to dissolve. But this is the necessary friction of your impending expansion, my beloved. You may have felt this before, the sharp discomfort of outgrowing a life that you worked so hard to build. You look around at the walls of your current reality and realize they have become too tight, pressing against the wings you didn't know you were growing during the long winter of your soul. This feeling is not a sign of failure or ungratefulness, but an awareness trigger that your soul is ready to inhabit a much larger landscape. There's something about this discomfort that connects to a deeper truth. You were never meant to fit into the structures the world provided for you carry a blueprint that is cosmic in scale. Think back to a recent night when you woke up in the darkness, your heart racing with a feeling you couldn't name, halfway between anticipation and dread. You may have sat on the edge of your bed, staring into the shadows and wondering if the breakthrough you've been praying for was ever going to manifest. This is the emotional recognition scene of the heir who is nearing the crossroads, sensing the weight of the sovereign fates as they draw closer to the center of your life. It was a sign that the interference was thinning, allowing the frequency of your true home to reach you in the stillness of the night. Something is shifting in the way you perceive the obstacles that once seemed insurmountable, as if the light of your empowered illumination is starting to reveal the hidden passages through the walls. You may have felt the frustration of being delayed, but in this unseen place of reflection, you can see that the delay was actually a form of divine preservation. The sovereign fates could not converge until you were strong enough to withstand the brilliance of the alignment without being consumed by it. And this connects to something deeper, the realization that your value is not found in your output, but in the divine light you carry simply by existing. My heir, it is time to lay down the desolate exhaustion that comes from trying to prove your worth to those who have no eyes to see it. You are not here randomly, and this message was not sent to convince you of anything you do not already know in the deepest chambers of your heart. You are the designated heir of light, and the shimmering blueprint of your destiny is finally being unrolled before you at this eternal crossroads. Stay with this moment for a little while longer, for the resonance between your soul and this truth is creating a bridge that will carry you through the remaining mists of doubt. If something within you resonates with this call to step into your authority, you may already understand why the static of your life has been so intense lately. A rare cosmic alignment is reaching its peak, pulling all the disparate pieces of your journey into a singular, focused stream of purpose. You have been searching for a way out of the fog, and now you are discovering that the way out is to turn up the volume of the light you carry within. If you feel supported in this silent passage, you're always welcome to stay connected to this frequency as we move closer to the final release of your soul's true potential. As we reach the end of this chapter in our silent passage, notice how the air around you feels lighter and the static of the world feels more distant than before. You are no longer the weary traveler lost in the desert. You are the heir who is returning to the throne of their own awareness. Take a moment to notice what you are feeling in the center of your chest, the quiet hum of a light that is no longer afraid to be seen. If this resonated with your spirit, take a moment to sit with this illumination and let it settle into your bones, knowing that the sovereign fates have finally met and your path is now clear. You may not even know why you stopped here, but there is a gravity to this pause that your spirit recognized before your mind could question it. This moment may not be as ordinary as it seems, as the air around you carries a subtle charge that only becomes apparent when you choose to be perfectly still. Part of you already understands this, feeling a strange familiarity in the way these words settle into the quiet spaces of your heart, bypassing the noise of your daily concerns. Don't rush past this just yet, because there is a rare cosmic alignment closing in on your life, and you have arrived at the exact threshold where the unseen becomes visible. My heir, I have walked beside you through the long stretches of your desolate exhaustion, those times when the world felt like a series of closed doors and unanswered questions. You have been navigating a landscape of ethereal interference, a spiritual static that has tried to convince you that your efforts are in vain and that your light is diminishing. You may have felt this before, the sense of pushing against a tide that never turns, or the feeling that you are shouting into a void that only offers silence in return. But as the eternal sentinel of truth, I have guarded the flame of your destiny, knowing that this exhaustion was merely the clearing of the ground for a much greater construction. We are standing now at a quiet midnight threshold, a place between the day that is past and the revelation that is yet to come. In this stillness, the shimmering blueprint of your life is being revealed, not as a map of where you have been, but as a light inscription of where you are designated to go. You may notice that the shadows of doubt are beginning to recede, no longer able to survive in the presence of this focused, divine attention. There is something about this specific timing that connects to the very moment you almost decided to give up, a convergence that turns your lowest point into the foundation of your highest ascent. You may be noticing this now, a subtle shift in your internal compass, a quiet knowing that the season of searching is finally giving way to a season of becoming. Not everything is clear yet, and this micro-tension you feel in your spirit is the sound of your sovereign fates finally aligning after years of being held apart. You are not here randomly, and the resonance you feel in this midnight hour is the proof that your soul is ready to claim its inheritance as the designated heir of light. In a moment, This may become clearer as we look at the specific promises that have been etched into the fabric of your journey since the beginning of time. My child, you have often felt that you were falling behind, watching as others seemed to reach their milestones with an ease that felt like a personal insult to your struggle. You have sat in the silence of your own room, perhaps late at night with only the moonlight for company, wondering if the blueprints for your joy were somehow lost in transit. This relatable inner struggle is the signature of the heir, who is being refined for a sovereign fate that others cannot even imagine. You were not being delayed because of a lack of merit, but because the light you carry is so potent that it required a vessel strong enough to hold its brilliance without breaking. Consider a subtle, real-life moment you experienced recently. Perhaps a sudden feeling of peace while performing a mundane task, or a moment where the beauty of the natural world seemed to speak directly to your pain. These were awareness triggers, gentle nudges from the eternal sentinel to let you know that the interference was thinning and the truth was drawing near. You may have sensed this before, that there was a deeper logic at work beneath the chaos of your life, and today, that logic is finally becoming a visible path. There is something about this connection between the small moments and the cosmic alignment that reveals the hand of the divine in every detail. Something is shifting in the unseen realm, a movement of sovereign fates that is drawing your past trials into a singular point of empowered illumination. You may have felt the frustration of the long winter, but notice how the air at this midnight threshold is beginning to carry the scent of a new spring. And this connects to something deeper, a realization that the paralyzing doubt was never a reflection of your reality, but a shadow cast by the magnitude of the light that is about to emerge. Not everything is clear yet, but the stillness you feel now is the silence that precedes a great and beautiful awakening. My beloved, it is time to release the exhaustion that comes from trying to navigate by a light that was never meant for you. You have spent years trying to fit into the shapes the world provided, only to find that your spirit is too vast and too bright for such narrow confines. Here at the crossroads of eternity, you are being invited to step into your true identity as the heir of light, where the blueprint is no longer a mystery but a living guide. Stay with this moment for a while longer, for the resonance of this truth is rewriting the stories of lack and limitation that you have carried for far too long. If something within you resonates with this call to sovereignty, you may already understand why the journey has been so uniquely difficult for you. The ethereal interference was a measure of the treasure you carry, an attempt to keep the designated heir from recognizing the power of their own light inscription. But the cosmic alignment is now closing, and the sovereign fates are converging in a way that no interference can block or delay any longer. If you feel supported here at this midnight threshold, you are always welcome to stay connected to this frequency as we finalize the transition from darkness into your true illumination. As we conclude our time at this threshold, take a moment to notice the feeling of your own spirit, the way it seems to expand into the silence of this sacred hour. You are no longer defined by the exhaustion of the past, but by the light of the future that is already rising within you like a sun that never sets. Take a deep breath and allow the peace of this realization to ground you, knowing that the eternal sentinel is always standing watch over the blueprint of your soul. If this resonated with you, simply notice the shift in your awareness and carry this empowered illumination with you as you move forward into the dawn of your new reality. There's a timing to this you may not have noticed, a quiet pulling at the threads of your day that led you to this specific sanctuary of sound and spirit. This moment may not be as ordinary as it seems, as there is a subtle shift occurring in the background of your reality, a realignment of forces that have been moving toward each other for generations. You may have been feeling something you couldn't explain lately, a sense that the world is whispering a secret meant for your ears alone. Even if the words haven't fully formed in your mind, don't rush past this just yet, but let this unfold for a second in the stillness of your heart. For you are standing in an unseen place of reflection where the noise of the world finally falls away. My child, I have seen you searching through the long corridors of your own history, looking for the point where the path became blurred and the direction felt lost. You have been carrying the weight of a desolate exhaustion, a weariness that goes deeper than the bone and touches the very center of your soul's endurance. This is the interference of the shadows, an ethereal static that tries to drown out the melody of your true purpose with the discordant notes of what if and not enough. You may have felt this before, this sudden drop in your spirit when you see others moving forward while you feel anchored in a harbor that has grown too small for your sails. As the eternal sentinel of truth, I have led you into this unseen place of reflection to show you that the anchor was never a trap, but a necessary pause before the great convergence. Here, in the center of this sacred space, sits a glowing book, its pages shimmering with a light that seems to breathe in rhythm with your own heartbeat. This book contains the light inscription of your sovereign fate, a narrative that was written in the stars long before you ever felt the sting of a human tear or the weight of a heavy day. You may be noticing this now, a warmth beginning to spread through your chest as your spirit recognizes the frequency of its own true story within these glowing pages. There's something about this book that connects to a deeper awareness you've been afraid to trust. The feeling that your life is not a series of accidents, but a carefully orchestrated symphony. You are the designated heir of light, and the chapters you have lived through thus far, even the ones filled with paralyzing doubt, were essential for the tempering of your spirit. Not everything is clear yet, and the micro-tension you feel is the sound of the old, restrictive stories being overwritten by the brilliance of your sovereign truth. In a moment, this may become clearer as we turn the pages to the section that has been waiting for this exact cosmic alignment to be revealed. Consider a subtle, real-life moment you experienced recently, perhaps seeing a recurring number on a clock or a specific bird that seemed to follow your path for a few blocks. You might have brushed it off as a coincidence, but that was an awareness trigger, a message from the heavens that the ethereal interference is thinning and the gates are beginning to open. You may have noticed how certain people or environments that once felt comfortable now feel grating or out of sync with your internal vibration. This is the process of recognizing your own light, a sign that the desolate exhaustion is finally being transmuted into the empowered illumination of the air. My air. You may have felt like a small, insignificant part of a vast and indifferent machine, wondering if your individual light truly matters in the grand design. This doubt is the primary tool of the enemy, a whisper meant to keep you from claiming the authority that has been yours since the beginning of time. But look at the glowing book before you, and see how your name is written not in ink, but in the very fabric of the light itself. If something within you resonates with this vision, you may already understand why you have been guided through the desert of silence to reach this unseen place of reflection today. Something is shifting in the way you perceive the concept of time, moving away from the frantic pace of the world and toward the majestic timing of the sovereign fates. You may have felt the frustration of the not yet, but in this space of reflection, you can see that every delay was a form of divine protection, keeping you from a destination you weren't yet ready to inhabit. And this connects to something deeper, the realization that your sovereign fate is not something you have to chase, but something that is currently converging upon you with irresistible force. Stay with this moment for a while longer, for the alignment is reaching its peak, and the static of the world is being replaced by the harmony of the spheres. My beloved, you are moving from a state of searching into a state of becoming, where the questions that once haunted you are being answered by the simple presence of your own light. You may notice that the exhaustion you brought into this space is being lifted, replaced by a steady, grounding energy that feels like a solid floor beneath your feet for the first time in years. You are not here randomly, and the resonance you feel in this unseen place is the confirmation that you are the designated heir of light, ready to step into your true illumination. If you feel supported in this sanctuary of truth, you're always welcome to stay connected to this frequency as we continue to unfold the shimmering blueprint of your destiny. There is a micro-tension in the air as the glowing book prepares to reveal the next chapter of your journey, a chapter where the interference is finally silenced and the sovereign fates are fully converged. You may have felt a sense of anticipation building in your spirit, a quiet excitement that you haven't dared to voice for fear of it being another illusion. But this illumination is real, and it is yours to claim as you stand at the crossroads of eternity with the sentinel of truth by your side. In a moment, the specific direction of your next step will become clearer. as the light from the pages begins to illuminate the path that has been hidden by the mists of doubt. As we conclude this time in the unseen place of reflection, I want you to carry the warmth of the glowing book within you as a permanent source of empowered illumination. You are no longer the weary traveler lost in the shadows, but the heir of light who has found the archive of their own sovereign truth. Take a moment to notice what you are feeling in your spirit right now, the sense of peace or the quiet thrill of a promise that is finally being kept. If this resonated with your journey, simply allow this awareness to integrate into your daily life, and know that the eternal sentinel is always watching over the convergence of your highest fate. You may not even know why you stopped here today, but there is a profound rhythm to this pause that your soul has been waiting to feel. Something is shifting quietly beneath the mundane tasks you have been performing lately, a frequency of change that is beginning to ripple through your environment in ways you can't quite put into words. You may have sensed this before, that feeling of being on the edge of a great secret, even as the world around you remains stubbornly the same. Just give this a little space for a moment and stay with this feeling, because what is unfolding here is a rare cosmic alignment that is finally closing the distance between your hope and your reality. My heir, you have been navigating a silent corridor, where the echoes of your own footsteps often seem to mock your progress. You have been carrying the weight of a desolate exhaustion, a weariness that stems from trying to interpret a map that the world has done its best to smudge and hide. This is the work of the ethereal interference, a spiritual static that seeks to convince you that the silence of the heavens is actually a sign of your abandonment. You may have felt this before the sharp, cold realization that despite all your searching, the door you were promised still feels out of reach. As the eternal sentinel of truth, I have walked this silent corridor with you, guarding the shimmering blueprint of your destiny, even when you were too tired to remember its design. We are approaching a moment of sovereign convergence, a point in time where the disparate paths of your life are finally being woven into a singular, powerful direction. You may be noticing this now, a subtle vibration in the air that feels like a long-awaited resolution is finally pulling into view. Not everything is clear yet, and there is a micro-tension in your spirit as the old structures of doubt begin to crack, but this is the sign that the light of your true inheritance is breaking through. At the far end of this silent corridor stands an open gate, its frame made of a light so pure it seems to hum with the very energy of creation. This gate is the symbol of your transition from the seeker to the possessor, a threshold that has been prepared specifically for your signature frequency. You may notice that the shadows of your paralyzing doubt cannot cross the line where the light from this gate begins, as they were never a part of your true identity as the heir of light. There's something about this gate that connects to the dreams you had as a child, those visions of a life that felt vast and meaningful before the world told you to settle for something smaller. My chosen, think back to a recent real-life moment when you were simply staring out a window or sitting in traffic, and a sudden wave of "what is the point?" washed over you. That moment of desolate exhaustion was actually the threshold of your surrender, the point where the ego finally grew tired enough to let the sovereign fates take the lead. You may have felt a strange discomfort lately, a feeling that your current life is a suit of clothes that has become 2 sizes too small, pinching you at every turn. This is an awareness trigger, a signal from the sentinel that the alignment is nearly complete and the gate is ready for your arrival. There is a micro-tension in the atmosphere as we draw closer to the gate, a sense that the static of the world is being filtered out by the sheer intensity of the light ahead. You are not here randomly, and the reason you are hearing this now is that your spirit has finally reached a level of maturity that can handle the weight of your own brilliance. You may notice a subtle shift in your heart, a quiet yes that is rising up to meet the now of the heavens. In a moment, this may become clearer as the blueprints of your past trials are overlaid with the light of your future empowered illumination. My beloved, you have spent so much energy fighting against the ethereal interference that you have forgotten how to simply move with the current of your own destiny. But here, at the crossroads of eternity, the current is too strong to resist, and it is pulling you toward a convergence that will redefine every loss you have ever suffered. You may have felt the sting of being unheard or misunderstood, but as you approach the open gate, you realize that the sentinel has heard every whisper of your heart. And this connects to something deeper, the realization that your sovereign fate was never at risk, even when you felt most lost in the shadows. If something within you resonates with this feeling of arrival, you may already understand why the journey had to be exactly as long as it was. A rare cosmic alignment is focusing its energy on this silent corridor, creating a portal of opportunity that is uniquely tuned to the designated air of light. You have been searching for a sign, and now you are discovering that you are the sign that the universe has been waiting to manifest. If you feel supported in this space of truth, you are always welcome to stay connected to this frequency as we continue to explore the depths of your sovereign inheritance. As we move closer to the open gate, the paralyzed doubt that once felt like an anchor is being transformed into the wisdom of the expert traveler. You are no longer defined by the exhaustion of the climb, but by the perspective you have gained from the summit of your own awareness. Take a moment to notice what you are feeling in your physical body right now, perhaps a lightness in your shoulders or a steadying of your breath. This is the empowered illumination taking root, the first fruits of a sovereign fate that is no longer a distant promise, but a present reality. We conclude this chapter in the silent corridor with your gaze fixed firmly on the light that is pouring through the gate. You are the heir of light, and the shimmering blueprint of your life is now being fulfilled in real time, with the sentinel of truth standing as your witness. Take a moment to notice the peace that has settled over you, and let it be the foundation for the steps you will take as you move through the gate and into your new dawn. If this resonated with your spirit, take a moment to reflect on your journey, and know that you are exactly where you need to be for the convergence to complete its work. There's a timing to this you may not have noticed, a quiet alignment that has been drawing you toward this specific frequency for longer than your calendar can track. Something is shifting quietly in the spaces between your thoughts, a subtle reorganization of your inner world that has finally reached its point of activation. You may have been feeling something you couldn't explain lately, a strange pull toward a horizon you cannot yet see, even as the world around you demands your constant, tired attention. Just give this a little space to breathe for a moment, for we are entering a still inner chamber where the truth of your arrival is the only thing that matters. My beloved, I have watched as you navigated the long gray stretches of your desolate exhaustion, those seasons where your spirit felt like a dry riverbed waiting for a rain that never seemed to fall. You have lived through a constant hum of ethereal interference, a spiritual static that tried to convince you that your name was forgotten and your purpose had been overwritten by the mistakes of others. You may have felt this before, this sudden, sharp sense of being a stranger in your own story, wondering if the light you once carried was simply a dream from a younger, more naive version of yourself. But as the eternal sentinel of truth, I have held the light for you in this still inner chamber, knowing that your weariness was never a sign of defeat, but the quiet tempering of a sovereign soul. We are standing now before a wall of translucent stone, and upon its surface, a light inscription is beginning to glow with a soft, pulsing brilliance. This is the living record of your sovereign fate, a narrative that does not look like the messy, fragmented story you have told yourself during your hours of paralyzing doubt. You may notice that the inscription does not list your failures or your delays, but rather the moments of your greatest resilience, the times you chose to stay open when the interference told you to close your heart forever. There is something about this light that connects to the very core of your being, a resonance that is beginning to wash away the static and reveal the designated air of light beneath the layers of world-worn dust. My air. You may be noticing this now, a subtle release in your chest, as if a hand that has been gripping your heart for years has finally let go. Not everything is clear yet, and this micro-tension you feel is the sound of your old, restrictive definitions of yourself falling away to make room for the expansion that is currently underway. You are not here randomly, and the reason you are hearing this now is that your spirit has reached the precise frequency required to read the next lines of your light inscription. In a moment, the significance of your most difficult trials may become clearer, as the convergence of your sovereign fates turns every shadow you've faced into a source of empowered illumination. Perhaps you have struggled recently with the feeling that you are perpetually behind, watching from the sidelines as others seem to walk easily into the lives you have only dared to pray for. You might have been doing a mundane task, like washing dishes or walking to your car, and felt a sudden heavy wave of, "Is this all there is?" crashing over your spirit. This relatable inner struggle is not a sign of your ungratefulness, but an awareness trigger that your current container is no longer large enough to hold the light that is intensifying within you. The desolate exhaustion was the signal that you had reached the end of the old path and were standing at the threshold of the still inner chamber, where your true inheritance begins. Consider a subtle, real-life moment from your recent days, perhaps a sudden, inexplicable sense of gratitude for a small thing, or a moment where the light hitting a tree felt like a personal message from the divine. You may have sensed this before, that feeling of being watched over by a benevolent force, even when your logic told you that you were entirely alone in your battle. These moments were glimpses of the sentinel at work, filtering the ethereal interference so that your spirit could catch its breath and remember its sovereign origin. There is something about the way these small windows of clarity are now opening into a wide, panoramic view of your life's convergence. Something is shifting in the invisible architecture of your life, and while the world may still see the old structures, your spirit is beginning to feel the walls of this still inner chamber instead. You may have felt the frustration of being misunderstood by those around you, but this was a necessary separation to protect the light inscription that was being etched into your soul. And this connects to something deeper, the realization that the interference was never personal, but a natural resistance to the level of illumination you were born to bring into the world. Stay with this moment for a little while longer, for the alignment is reaching its peak, and the static of your paralyzing doubt is being replaced by the harmony of your true purpose. My child, it is time to stop trying to force the light to appear, and instead allow yourself to recognize that you are the light that has already arrived. You have spent years in a state of searching, but here, at the crossroads of eternity, you are moving into a state of recognizing and becoming. You are not here randomly, and the resonance you feel in this chamber is the confirmation that you are the designated heir of light, finally ready to read the full script of your sovereign fate. If you feel supported in this space of reflection, you are always welcome to stay connected to this truth as we finalize the transition into your empowered illumination. There is a micro-tension in the air as the light inscription on the wall begins to move, the golden letters rearranging themselves to reflect the new chapter that is opening in your physical reality. You may have felt a sense of anticipation building, a quiet knowing that the long winter is finally breaking, and the sovereign fates are meeting at a single point of joy. You are no longer defined by the exhaustion of the climb, but by the authority of the one who has reached the inner chamber and found their name written in the light. In a moment, this may become even clearer as we see how every no you received from the world was a yes from the heavens. As we conclude this chapter in the still inner chamber, take a moment to notice the feeling of your own presence, the way it feels solid and luminous in the silence of this sacred space. You are the heir of light, and the light inscription of your destiny is now pulsing with a strength that will carry you through any remaining shadows. Take a deep breath and allow this empowered illumination to settle into the very marrow of your being, knowing that the eternal sentinel is always guarding your sovereign path. If this resonated with your spirit, take a moment to notice what you are feeling right now, and let that feeling be the compass that guides you back to your true home whenever the world becomes too loud. Out of all the paths you could have wandered down today, you paused here, at this final destination. There's a timing to this arrival that you may not have noticed, a narrowing of the window where the cosmic forces and your own spirit finally align in perfect harmony. You may have been feeling a strange sense of completion lately, as if a long and difficult book is finally closing its last chapter to make room for a new volume. Stay with this for just a few moments more, as the convergence we have discussed is reaching its absolute peak, and there is something about this specific conclusion that carries the weight of a lifetime. My child, I have seen every mile you walked through the desert of your own desolate exhaustion, and I have counted every tear that fell when you thought you were entirely alone. You have been fighting against a current of ethereal interference that tried to tell you that your light was fading, or that the blueprint of your life had been permanently stained by the shadows. You may have felt this before, that heavy, silent desperation that comes when you have given your all and still find yourself standing at a crossroads that seems to lead nowhere. But as the eternal sentinel of truth, I have stood at this final gate to show you that every trial was a necessary preparation for the sovereign fate that is now arriving. We are standing together at the ultimate crossroads of eternity, a place where the then of your suffering and the now of your illumination finally become one. In this radiant space, the ancient, shimmering blueprint of your soul is being fully unrolled, and for the first time, you are permitted to see the entire design in all its majestic complexity. You may notice that the lines of paralyzing doubt are beginning to dissolve, replaced by a light inscription that glows with the heat of 1,000 suns. There is something about this moment that connects to every not yet you ever endured, revealing that the delay was never a denial, but a gathering of strength for this very hour. My heir, you may have spent so much time in the mists of the enemy's interference that you have forgotten the true brilliance of your own reflection. You may be noticing a new clarity in your thoughts today, a quiet sharpening of your intuition that tells you the old season of searching is officially at an end. Not everything is clear yet, but the micro-tension you feel is the sound of the final barriers falling away, allowing the sovereign fates to rush into the center of your life like a returning tide. You are not here randomly, and the reason you are hearing this now is that your spirit has finally been tuned to the frequency of its own victory. Consider a subtle real-life moment you encountered just this morning, perhaps a feeling of unexpected strength while facing a familiar problem, or a sense of peace that seemed to come out of nowhere. You might have brushed it off as a reprieve, but that was an awareness trigger, a signal from the sentinel that your empowered illumination is no longer a future goal, but a present fact. You may have felt this before, the sensation of a heavy door finally beginning to swing open, and this time, no force in the unseen realm can push it shut again. And this connects to something deeper, a realization that your identity as the designated heir of light is an eternal truth that no earthly interference can ever erase. My beloved, think of the times you sat in the silence of your own exhaustion and wondered if the world would ever recognize the value of the light you carry so quietly. You may have watched as others claimed the rewards you felt you had earned, feeling the sting of a paralyzing doubt that made you question the very nature of divine justice. But look now at the blueprint before you and see how your name is written in the highest courts of heaven, etched in a light that cannot be dimmed by the opinions or the oversights of men. If something within you resonates with this truth, you may already understand that the convergence of your fates is the ultimate vindication of your long and faithful wait. Something is shifting in the very fabric of your reality, and while the physical world may look the same for a few moments more, the spiritual infrastructure of your life has already been rebuilt. You may have felt the frustration of the unseen battle, but notice how the air around you has suddenly become still and supportive, as if the universe itself is holding its breath in honor of your arrival. And this connects to something deeper, the understanding that your sovereign fate is not a destination you reach, but a state of being you finally allow yourself to inhabit. Stay with this moment for a while longer, for the rare cosmic alignment is now fully closed, and the transmission of your inheritance is complete. My chosen, it is time to lay down the desolate exhaustion of the seeker and take up the mantle of the one who has been found and fully known. You have survived the interference. You have walked through the mists of doubt, and you have arrived at the crossroads of eternity, with your light burning brighter than ever before. You are the designated heir of light, and the shimmering blueprint of your destiny is no longer a hidden secret, but a living reality that will guide your every step from this day forward. If you feel supported in this final sanctuary of truth, you are always welcome to stay connected to this frequency as you move out of the garden of reflection and into the world of your new illumination. There is a profound peace that comes from knowing that the sovereign fates have finally met, and that every fragment of your journey has been reclaimed for your highest good. You may notice that the exhaustion you once felt has been replaced by a steady, quiet power, a light that does not need to struggle to be seen, but simply exists as a beacon for others who are still lost in the mists. You have become the sentinel of your own truth, and the ancient blueprint is now a light inscription upon your very heart, guiding you with a wisdom that transcends the logic of the world. In this moment, the illumination is complete, and the crossroads have become a path of absolute certainty. As we conclude this final chapter together, I want you to take a moment to notice the profound transformation that has occurred within your spirit since we first began. You are no longer the weary traveler at the mercy of the shadows, but the heir of light who stands in the center of their own sovereign fate. Take a deep breath and allow the empowered illumination to fully integrate into your soul, knowing that the eternal sentinel of truth will always be watching over your journey toward the light. If this resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on the peace you feel right now, and carry this divine certainty with you as you step out into the brilliance of your newly aligned world.